Okay, so we left the previous session by saying strings are bad. What do you mean, Davey? Strings are bad, right? Okay, I'm going to explain. So move out of the way, Davey. Move. Boop. You see me here? No? Right? No. Okay. I'm gonna stay right here, corner. So look at this. Why am I saying that strings are bad, right? We have login here. Like, let me just do a search for login. Look, there's already 1, 2, there's a big one here, and then so we start saying that string, the fact that we're using string there makes it difficult to like, if you want to change that thing here, yeah, you could just go here and replace with something else. I'll show you a way to make sure that you don't do that. You don't do it this way. And then next thing is, you see right here we have all these strings and so on and so forth. They come from that handling right there. So what I'm going to do is get rid of all the strings and refactor that auth reducer there so that it's easier to test, maintain, and that's what we're doing on this channel, right? Make your code maintainable. Let's go. So how do we go about it? We go in here and then we say that we have the state is here. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is to add a constant JS, right? And in that constant file, what we're going to do is export things like login. Okay, so we just need to create a variable, and then you can give it whatever name you want. Logout. Right, we're just moving them into like constant, and then we're gonna be able to reuse that. But stay with me, because the way it's going to be used gonna make your code much easier to handle over time, right? So what else did we have? Well, we go back here and we see that we have open auth model. So let's go here and export that const, put it here, put it like that, right? So what I have here, yeah, we can even leave the name like this. It's totally fine. Do that here, same thing. I'm gonna move it like this, copy that one, and then we can already go here and here, right? So now we have already this one, we have logout and a login and logout. So that's already the first step is pretty good. So now what we want to do is here, what I'm going to do is actually create also a form type. So what I'm going to do here is to say export const form type like this, and I'm gonna say login. So we're going to say login and then logout, right? So that's basically apparently the way the forms are being handled there. I don't think I'm gonna do refactor on the forms itself. You could use different approaches there, but we'll see if that's needed at some point. We're going to do so. So now that once we have that, what we're going to do is to make sure that this one here are actually using the constant, right? So I can go here and then import that like this, right? You can do that, import that. We have the login, and then same thing here, and then you go right there. Look, you going to have now you see we kind of got rid of a duplicate here, and then over here same thing, you can do that. And then right here the same thing, right? So once I do that, I kind of got rid of all the strings right in this page, right? That's already a pretty good a first good step that we have right there. So I'm gonna put myself on the other side, so we see a little bit more of the code right there, right? So now, once we have that, we also have the forms here. So here I'm gonna say this is form type that comes from here and say login, right? So that's basically the way I'm getting rid of these strings. Strings are bad. And now the beauty with this is if I go to this constant, you can give it whatever name you want. Login is fun. It doesn't matter. You're changing it literally at one place, one exact place, and then everywhere else, well, you see what I'm saying, right? That here it really doesn't matter what it does as long as you have a login there, and it could be easily used. Now, look at how I'm going to leverage that inside right here. Now, this app isn't using like an exported state management. It's literally like React-based state management with use reducer. So you see it right there with use reducer, pass a reducer and initial state, and then do everything in that loop. It's really good. I like that. So now the thing that we want to do, I want to show you here, is the fact that if you use this switch right there, you probably, some of you might have seen already that pattern, and I will link it in the comment. But you can actually make sure that that code here, we're going to see that when we test thing, but that code here could be easily maintainable and testable. So the way you do that is to say, we're going to create a function. So let's create a file here that's called reducer.js, right? And actually we can even call that reducer.js. And we're going to move that code from that file to that other file there, right? So let's take that one, that entire thing. Right, and let me go here, cut that, and then go to auth reducer, put it over here, and then export it right here, right? So and then once we do that, I gotta go back to auth context. Yeah, I had auth context. Okay, I think I might have switched my keyboard. Let's put it back to the right place and then go back here. So if we go back here, now what I want to do is import all of this. But I don't have to do it this way. I can go to the context and then select that line at the top, go back to the auth reducer, and then just do this. We can remove that duplicate. We don't need the form type over here, and then we should be quite okay. Now, if we go back to auth context, what we want to do is to make sure that we import, I believe, what do we need? Actually, we need to import the, where is it? Inside here, we want to import that auth reducer like this, right? So if we do that, our application is still working again, and we can get rid of dead code, and gonna do it this way, right? So that's pretty good. We move that thing outside, and it's kind of going all right. And actually, for the initial state, we need the initial state at a few places. But I often associate the initial state with the reducers, right? But it could be used. It could be used here indeed. There is no really big deal with that. Now, last step to make that auth reducer easily testable is to say we're going to create a auth handler, and it's basically an object. It's a JavaScript object, and that JavaScript object there will just be a set of functions, right? Open, it's a function, giving it here, and we're gonna need 4 of them because right below we have 4 functions that handle the state. So there is the open. Here we're going to have the closed one. Closed, really good. And now here we're going to have the login. We're going to have the logout, And now you see these 4 things here represent actions that are happening in our application, right? So in a way, what we're basically saying is now we have 4 functions that are taking care of like each possible state action, right? So what are we going to do then is basically say inside the switch, this one handles the auth. So I'm gonna yank that, copy it, and then go all the way here and then put it like this. It's really not a good thing that there is no IntelliSense here. And then what you need, the thing here, you need the state and the action, right? So you need the state and the action basically, right? So that is already one thing, which means that we can get rid of that part, right? Same thing for this one. We're gonna get this one right here, and then go inside like this, and then make sure that all of this is well aligned, and state action. And here for the action, what we need, we don't really need the action because we're just gonna change the is model to false, right? So which means that we can get rid of that part, right? Now the last 2 ones are basically the login. So let me cut that part, and we go to the login here, and then we can basically do this, right? So now, and then here we need the state and the action, right? And then since we're using JavaScript, I can just say here I need the session, so you can just get the session this way, right? So that's already another way of doing it here. So let's see, here at the top we needed the form type, so here I can also do the same thing, saying form type right here, and then I can get it this way, right? So that's pretty good. Now the last one is the logout. We gotta get this one, cut that, go to the logout here, and then put it like this, right? And then here we're going to have again the state and the session, but there we don't need the action right there, so we have it this way. Now you're wondering like, holy moly, how is this going to work, right? So what we have here is basically 4 functions. I'm gonna show you that again in a few minutes, how this thing is actually a set of functions that you can move aside, have them test in isolation, and then make sense, and then make sure that your application is actually easily maintainable. Now what we're going to do here is just create a handler, and that handler there is just going to be the fact that we have the auth handler. We call it auth handler like this, and we're gonna check it based on the action, and then the action has a type basically, right? So that's basically what we need to check. And then what we do, so action type should be one of these, so it should be logout, login. So you see that's an action type, that's an action type, and so on and so forth, right? So what we want to do here is to say if we're gonna return that handler, and we're gonna check that if it is there, meaning that if the action exists right there, then we're just gonna call that handler passing the state and the action. Otherwise we just return the state, right? And as you can see to the left, the application is working once again, but that's we're going to check the login and logout and see if things are still working. So we have like open and then close and then so on and so forth, right? So right there you see already that the entire thing is working again. And as I mentioned, maybe for some people that is a pretty hard thing to understand here, but just pause the video if that's not completely clear, and then you will be able to understand a little bit better by watching it in even in slow motion if you want. But and for example, here you could have written something like login, right? And then say you put a 2 point here. Actually, if you do so, you don't even need that. You can just do it this way, and then if you do it, the only thing you need to do is to use a normal arrow function there. The point there is, if you do so now, that thing is just a string, isolated string. But by using that notation, I'm using basically the constant login, which is not a string, it is a constant there. So if the thing inside change, the entire thing there is that won't have any impact in the final code, right? So that's what we have here, right? Now, last thing, I try to make sure that the video stays below 15 minutes, but we gotta go a little bit over time with this one. Last thing here is I can now go here, and that is probably something that a lot of people will debate, like, no, probably not. But look at this. You see, these are now functions, and this function there, you could have them in a folder that I'm gonna call reducer, right? So that's basically a folder. Let me give it a S right there, and then we're gonna move that one in there. Yes, move that in there. I'm going to add in that folder, I'm a huge fan of the index.js shortcut, right? So in there, I'm just going to export from to reducer, right? So we have that part, and if we did it well, the app should still be working once again. But look at this. Now, what I could do inside that reducer, I can go here and then say let's create. I'm just gonna create one of the function here, and then we're gonna keep on moving on to the next one. So I'm just gonna copy that entire thing, go inside the reducer, and what I'm going to do is to say here is the open model, right? Open model, right? So what am I going to do is to put it right here, and then say this one is a function. The name of the function is open model, right? And then what am I doing with that function is really simple. Just export that. Now you see, this is a function. That function there handles the fact that if you give it a state, a form type, it's gonna do the work right here, right? So then what I can simply do is to go back to that auto reducer and say, hey, you don't need all of this. You can then just say open model, right? So you see, now I have a function that is completely isolated, that could be tested in isolation, and then it's gonna turn your code here into something that end up looking like this. Close a model. Here, guess what? You can do login here, and here you can do logout, right? And each of these things, yeah, you see where we at now with that, and each of them could then become a function, and then with each of these functions you can test them in isolation. And what I mean by testing them in isolation is literally go here and then add a file like openmodel.spec.js, and then write the test to make sure that this one is working really well. And that is what we're going to do, not in the next episode, but the one after it. So hopefully that was clear, and if you like it, please go there. There is a button called subscribe, but maybe subscribing is hard for you. So what you could also do, you can share that with your friends and then bring me some feedback, and let's improve the code together. See you in the next episode, which is below. Just click here, like click. Did you? You didn't click. I'm still here. You gotta click that button there. Okay.